Hello and welcome to another episode of the Simon and Friends podcast. I'm Simon Short. Joining me this week is Josh Limesand. Josh, welcome back in, man. How you doing?
Hey, not too bad. Ready for Super Bowl weekend, I guess. It's coming up fast. The
We
teams that
are
everyone
we're so
predicted.
thrilled. Yeah. Shout out
Yeah,
to Ben
I
Parker.
can't wait to watch the Seahawks Patriots. I just cannot wait.
Shout out to Ben Parker when we did our wild card weekend
Oh yeah, yeah. Yep.
preview show. This was his pick. You and I went Rams Bills. So we're still licking our wounds over that. But listen, the for the listeners and the watchers. This episode is coming to you all after the Super Bowl. So we
Oh
hope
yeah.
you enjoyed the Super Bowl. Um, we hope the team you were rooting for won, unless it was the Patriots. Therefore, we hope that did not go the way you wanted. Or if you're like Josh and you're like, I'm gonna pseudo root for the Patriots because of Drake May. I hope Drake May plays awesome, and the Patriots still lose by 3 touchdowns. That would be great for me, just from a personal perspective. Um, Call me a hater all you want, but listen, my team is not in great places right now. I need all the wins I can get, so I'm gonna make fun of teams and root against teams as I see fit for the next little while. That's what I'm aiming for at this point in my fandom. So, we are here in our first official episode of the postseason. Josh, we did it. We made it through a whole season. We did power rankings
Yep.
for the teams each month. We did our wild card playoff preview. Now we're here decompressing from the year and we're updating our QB power rankings. So, for our power rankings, just like our in-season team power rankings, it's a little different than where you might see this just when you like look up QB rankings online, right? We are checking in on the quarterbacks. We do a preseason, we do a postseason. Postseason is like a vibes. Where do we kind of sit now the year has ended? How are people feeling about these quarterbacks, but also these quarterback situations, right? So if you're a team with a pending free agent, we're factoring that in. We're not just ranking the player. We're taking this from a team perspective. So this is almost like a how the fan base feels about their quarterback situation, or like when the teams sit down at the end of the year and they go through the depth chart or the free agents or the draft picks, whatever, and they're like, how do we feel about our quarterback room right now? That's kind of what we're trying to rank. So we're factoring in things like obviously just pure what I call the Madden rating, right? If you just put all their attributes into a computer, it spits out a number. That's our ranking. Um, we can also be factoring in just like how the general offense flowed and the match between offensive coordinator, play caller, offense, supporting cast, all of that sort of stuff gets in. The money gets into it a little bit. It's not going to as much this year as say last year at this time or our 1.0 ranking when guys like Brock Purdy were up for extensions who, and we still weren't sure what we thought about Brock Purdy or like Jared Goff, like being a top 5 paid quarterback. Now he's like the 12th paid quarterback, so that feels a little bit better. Um, it takes into account everything, right? So it's not just going to be this isn't just truly who we think are the 1 through 32 quarterbacks in the NFL in the exact order. We have a little bit of wiggle room here. Josh, how did you feel about we get to the end of the 2025-2026 season? We're about to watch the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl's already happened for the listeners, viewers. Did you feel like this settled nicely for quarterbacks, or did you feel like you had more questions coming out of the season than you did maybe even going into the year?
No, I feel like it settled pretty nicely. I think that the contract stuff I feel like is in a good spot for some of the higher paid guys, like you just mentioned, like Jared Goff's not a top five paid quarterback. And I feel like there's a lot of guys that are still on deals, or like still on pretty big deals where it seems pretty logical that they're either going to be going towards their final extension, maybe restructuring at some point, or just doing, but nothing screams like this is a crazy situation that has to sway things one or the other. So
Hmm.
for me, that made it really a lot easier for me to just look at, okay, who are the teams or who are the quarterbacks that I feel really good about, how it factors in with where their team is at from a franchise standpoint. And then the other thing I would say is, there's some guys that based on their season, I think it's important for the listeners to know that it's not based on just how well their 2025 season went because
Hmm.
for some guys, this was a really good year, but they haven't done it for long enough yet. For other guys, it was a really bad year, but there was enough promise, and their situation would suggest that things are on track, right? So it's not just positive vibes from a number standpoint or from a big play standpoint. It's also positive vibes from like a health. Like we'll do franchise health a different time, obviously,
Hmm.
but that just
Yeah.
that plays a little bit into the quarterback ranking because the teams that don't have to overspend on a draft pick for a quarterback, the teams
Hmm.
that don't have to overpay in free agency for a quarterback from a free agency class that we might reference a couple times tonight isn't offering much by
Yep.
way of things to get
Hmm.
excited about. So
Hmm.
if you're a team who's quarterback needy, this isn't a good offseason for you, really, to be honest, unless you have the first overall pick. So we'll talk about that. But um, I think it did kind of settle nicely. I felt like a lot of things, I wanted to look up some things to confirm some of my thoughts, and I did a little bit of tweaking, but you know, I think we'll both mention that we have some tiers of guys in this power rankings, and I think that the tiers themselves might feel pretty comfortable to me. I felt pretty confident in what I have in my tiers, um, which means I'm kind of okay with some wiggle room within those for some specific rankings. So,
Yeah, we don't, again, if you're this is the first time you're tuning into this, we don't go over our rankings together. Josh has a
Mhm.
ranking, I have a ranking. I don't see them till Josh sends it to me. I make sure I don't look at it until after I've made mine, just so I can do the graphic, and then we come to a consensus on our power rankings, right? We present each of our lists, and then we kind of come to a consensus power rank for whatever the subject is, and as we've been mentioning, this is going to be quarterbacks. So last week's episode that came out on, I guess it'll be Thursday the 5th when that one comes out. So the last episode before the Super Bowl, I just recorded it last night. We're recording this Tuesday the 3rd, Monday the 2nd. I recorded my way too early annual QB predictions pod with Ronan, where we try to predict all the week one starters at quarterback across the NFL. And I think I'm with you. It feels very settled right now. And it speaks to a little bit about what we had in that episode where for the last 4 years, there have been somewhere between 9 and 12 new starting quarterbacks,
wow.
like across new teams. So guys, player movement, trades, free agents, draft picks. For the last 4 years, that Ron and I did this 9 to 12. We only had five changes each
That makes sense. Yep.
because and we came down to like, hey, there's a lot of interesting young guys, a lot of young guys that are that at least played themselves into getting another year of being at least the starter for the first handful of games, if not long term. Um, we've kind of settled into a place where we have lost that era of quarterback class that I've always talked about that we were missing between 2012, like when Luck and RG3, those guys retire early,
Yeah.
bad drafts until the Mahomes draft of 2017. We've made up that with that missing gap of players. And I think because of that, we don't have as many questions about where these quarterbacks are going to be because they all kind of settled into places that we kind of expect and know and understand for them. Um, and more teams, as we look at a rookie who's started less than like 25 NFL games in the Super Bowl and a journeyman failed first round pick, more teams are realizing there's more ways to support a quarterback than just like you have to get a top five guy or else
Right.
you gotta cut loose sort of deal.
Right.
Um, so all that makes sense. I do think that this is going to feel like pretty normal and pretty run of the mill. I think for the first half of it, that the end of this is going to get a little wonky and fun. So make sure you guys stick around. But we're going to go through this. I'm going to pull up the first graphic here, and it's going to reveal our top eight. And I want to talk about this first, so everybody can see our top eight here. But I want to talk about this in 1 to 6 to start with because we have the same 1 through 6, and
Hmm.
that's an exact tier for me because I said these are the six best quarterbacks in the NFL, and we can quibble with why we did certain orders. Um, but to me, these are the best six guys in the NFL. And when we did our preseason rank, which was our 3.0, my whole thing was we're not going to get cute, right? We did a little bit for our 1.0 and 2.0 where we took the situations and ooh, Derrick Henry came off a bad year. How do we feel about that for Lamar? Or like Josh Allen was MVP, Lamar was all pro first team. Like, oh, the Chiefs offense is slipping a little bit. Ooh, Josh Allen always has two bad games in December you can count on. And I said, can we throw all that away? Can we just have Mahomes, Allen, Lamar? We know those are the best three guys.
Mhm.
And yet I've deviated from that. So here we are. Um, Real quick, the reason Mahomes is not one for me is just because he's coming off of the injury. So we're gonna have to
Sure.
wonder where, because it's not just about Mahomes, but it's about the Kansas City Chiefs. And
Yep.
if the Chiefs, who have been just behind the power curve of where they want to be for the last, handful of years, and let's say Mahomes misses training camp, let's say Mahomes misses a week or two of the season, like what's that going to look like, right? Just where are the Chiefs going to be from an offensive standpoint? And Mahomes is at the center of that, obviously.
Yep.
And then with the years that Allen and Stafford just had, I think they had the most successful team seasons of these top six guys, obviously, but especially individual seasons, the way they were playing. I know Allen didn't end on the best note, so maybe me having him here at one is going to look silly to somebody. But that guy was playing out of his mind
Yep.
all season long, all playoffs long, couple fumbles, like completely changed the narrative. But I just think these two are having the best season start to finish. And everybody else in this top six, like we know these are the best six guys, they all kind of had years from hell. I mean, even Herbert, who had like 11 wins, he's in the playoffs, like
Yeah.
beat up the whole season, bad playoff showing. Burrow, that whole Bengals thing. We obviously talked
Yeah.
about Lamar and the Ravens throughout the season. Mahomes, tough go. He was playing well, but then he gets hurt, and now he's coming off the injury. So I just thought Allen Stafford had the best years. They're in that top six, clearly the two of the top six guys. So that's why I had them one, two.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you're right. I think these are the top six quarterbacks. I cut my tier short at five, though, and that the reason why Stafford's out of it is because I went the angle of if I'm starting a franchise right now, fantasy
Hmm.
draft, real life fantasy draft, I'm taking one of those top five guys. And so I'm only not taking Stafford because of his age. And if you remember the first time we did this, I had Stafford in the 20s, which seems
Yeah.
asinine now because that
Yeah.
was like 3 years ago, but
Yeah.
or a couple of years ago maybe. But I was just like, this guy's too old. He can't do it anymore. He can't do it for much longer. There's no outlook for the future. It's just this year. But each year he seems to be almost getting better, or at least staying as elite as he is. So there's no argument for me here, but that's why I had him at six. I was like, I can't drop him just because of his age anymore because I've tried to do that and it hasn't worked out. So, but I did cut my tier off at five and say, like, if I'm starting a franchise, I want one of these first five guys. That's kind of how I looked at it. And then for the reason for Mahomes at one, and you're not going to get any argument for me between Mahomes and Allen because if I was starting my own franchise, I would take Josh Allen over Mahomes personally.
Ooh,
Yeah. I
interesting.
like the style a little bit better, but at the same time,
Having the mobility, having the because every time Mahomes does something where he's running around,
yeah,
it does end up he tears his ACL this year. The year he runs more than ever. The one time he QB sneaked, he dislocated his leg or whatever he did. So
right.
that makes sense.
The reason I gave Mahomes the nod is because I felt like I was because I didn't have him at one initially, but I was like, am I over punishing him because they didn't make the playoffs in the rough year? Because at first I was like, well, he's getting up there, but he's not really. He's a 30, Lamar's 29, Josh Allen's 29. Like the quarterbacks here are roughly the same age with Burrow and Herbert being slightly younger. So it's not a youth thing either. And we've talked about this before with the Chiefs. They're legacy building already. And so like
Hmm.
I looked at Mahomes' contract. I don't have the numbers for you off the top of my head, but he's got kind of maybe one more year at top dollar, but then I just envision him restructuring
Hmm.
and doing whatever he can to get like three more championships. And so when I look ahead, I feel like Mahomes and the Chiefs are still going to be there for the next 5 years. I do think what you said about it's the whole Kansas City Chiefs. I do think there's a lot of changes that need to happen. I think Kelsey's done. I think that other guys need to. I think they need to look at some things, and that's why and it's maybe cheating a little bit because in my head I'm like, well, if we fast forward a year, we're going to see a lot of restructuring and movement. But Mahomes, I think, is still going to be there. There's no reason he
Hmm.
can't still ball out for another 5, 6 years at least at a top level. And so that was like, you know what? He's got the track record. Maybe I'm not going to punish him for this past season. But again, like I said, you're not gonna get much argument from me for Allen because he's insane. And like I said, he'd be my pick if I had to pick one. I think my most interesting of the top six was because I'm so obsessed with Justin Herbert that I put him at three above Joe Burrow. Because I really do think I try not to make excuses. I know he's not perfect, but if they had offensive tackles this year, I just don't know how good they could
Seems
have been.
important. Yeah.
It seems like that's a pretty important position, and but through all of that, the durability thing, right? Like he gets the nod over Burrow because of durability. Like he played through a broken. I'm not calling Joe Burrow weak, believe me. I'm just saying
Yeah.
like the availability there is impressive, especially considering, his offensive line issues. And then Lamar did have a down year, and I kind of punished him for that because it didn't when he was back, it didn't look very crisp and clean. And I think that we're not breaking any news to say it, but it should speak to the importance of getting practice reps. Like regardless of how good your quarterback is, how good your team is, you need to have continuity. You need to have chemistry build up, and you could see that with Lamar when the games that he did play with the Ravens. Like they really struggled to get anything going, and they needed to get in the playoffs. They obviously didn't, but um, so I so that's why I had him at 5. But I actually almost had Lamar out of the top 5. But then I was like, still only 29. He's proven he's an elite talent. Like if I'm starting a franchise, I'm not going to be upset if he ends up being my quarterback by any means. So that's I think
So
we just had a different tier break there, I think.
and so where because I know you said you had the tier break between 5 and 6 kicking
Yep.
Stafford. Are you coming off of that, or are you letting Stafford sneak in and we're putting him somewhere, or are you going to fight to try to keep him out of that top five?
I think that I think we look future a little bit. And I don't know. It's really hard to say because I even wrote my write-up
Stafford
like
might win
this.
MVP.
I, well, I know. And I even wrote my write-up like the Rams are really set to run it back. They have the 13th overall pick from the Falcons. Like they're going to get some top tier talent as well out of this draft. So it's really hard to say that he's not there. I would allow him to go above Lamar considering the season he had because Lamar's season did scare me a little bit more than the other ones that are in the top 5. So
Do you really feel good about so let me try to see. So I'm happy to give you Herbert over Burrow
okay,
because I love Herbert's an alien, and the season he had with the circumstances,
right,
yes, absolutely. Um, and with the I think you can allow some of the frustration from Burrow to seep into this a little bit, right? And um, I like the durability piece. Like you just kind of are banking on you're gonna miss Burrow for a handful of games, and same thing with Lamar. Like that, you kind of just have to bank on that. So
right,
that's kind of why if you were to give in on the Stafford thing, I would want to bump him over Burrow as well at that point because if our
okay,
concern for Stafford is like longevity and how much he's going to play, I have that maybe not longevity. I think Burrow can do what he's going to do for another 10 years, but if he's going to miss 5 games every time, then at this
yeah,
point, like
yeah,
right now, like do I feel like our Bengals fans or Rams fans sitting here at home right now feeling better about where they're at with their quarterback and their
right,
offense?
right,
Especially if it'd be one thing if Stafford was like, I'm openly considering retirement, or like he ended on a sour note, or like he was banged up through, but he was just awesome
yeah,
throughout the season,
true.
and I do not want to give that up right now. So I
That's
can I
fair.
can get in the middle of that 2 and 6 and put him at 4,
Yep.
um, and then we could do like Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Stafford, Burrow, Jackson.
I could do that. I could definitely put him above Burrow. And I actually had my write up for Josh Allen. He was one of 2 quarterbacks with an approximate value in the top 10 last year. So I think that makes him worthy of going above Mahomes. So if we go Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Stafford, Burrow,
Stafford, Burrow, Jackson.
does that feel right?
Yeah. And listen, the Lamar thing, man, is it was a year from hell, and
Hmm.
he was hurt all year, right? He was the entire season. I mean, from the get-go, calf strain or knee sprain to calf strain to toe injury,
Right.
whatever. Like, and it's all connected and it all tied into it. But just things never clicked. It was a whole season. It wasn't like things kind of got derailed at the end, like from Mahomes' year, or things started out slow, like for Burrow or whenever Burrow. I lose track of if Burrow misses the first half of the year or the second half of the year these days. I don't know anymore. Um, or like ends on a sour note in the playoffs with like Herbert. Lamar's whole year was a rough year because of injury. And when that happens, like, this, but I want to be clear, this top six these are the top six like super
Yep.
duper star quarterbacks in the NFL. So wherever you fall in here, I think you're extremely, extremely good.
Yep.
Um, and he just had the worst season statistically and from a vibes and team success standpoint out of all these teams. So Lamar's going to
Yep.
be six there. All right, we have a different 7 and 8 though.
Yes, we do.
Um, I gave the nod to the second year guys, Drake May, Caleb Williams. I think they just essentially, I called this tier the second year breakout probable superstars. I think these are the two guys among everybody else in the league that has a chance to be in this same tier with
Yep.
those top six. And I think the way they played this year showed that they actually are that. Now, your argument's going to be I want to see it for another year before I put them in that category, and I agree. But that's why they're just a step down for me because it's like they probably have it, and neither of their situations is going to change in a significant way. Ben Johnson's still there with Caleb Williams, and Vrabel and McDaniels are going to be there with Drake May. Um, and they get the bump of being on the rookie quarterback contract. So their teams are going to continue to be able to build around them a little
Yep.
bit for another couple of years here. But tell me why you went with a couple veterans like Dak and Sam Darnold
It's
over those
literally
guys.
what you said. The tier that I had Drake May starting at, I actually had the tier, and maybe this is blasphemy. I had my next tier was Drake May through. I kind of lumped all those guys in up through Jaden Daniels, and it was I feel very good about these guys. I would put Drake May and Caleb Williams in their own separate tier. I think they still have higher upside, but I my tier title was I feel very good about these guys long term, but I still need a bit more proof. And so I was punishing Drake May a little bit for I know you can't, you have to play the team in front of you. And I don't like these narratives to take anything away from what he accomplished and what the Patriots accomplished, but their route to the Super Bowl, um, you know, I
Yeah,
don't
it is
think
what
it,
it
I
is.
don't,
Uh-huh.
yeah, like you go up against Jarrett Stidham in the snow, and the Denver Broncos that, I was lower on than most people. Till the end, I finally gave in and started to put them up there, and then, they kind of faltered. But, um, so I hold it against him a little bit. So a little bit of recency bias, and then Caleb Williams is a little bit up and down at times. So just to like exactly what you said, I needed to see a little bit more, but I agree with you that those are the top two talents. So all I did was give a little nod because I had Stafford in this tier too, initially because he was my number six. So I had proven vets that I'm a little bit sketchy about their long-term outlooks. And so like because Dak's in his mid-30s now, but he's
hmm
still dealing. For the record, I'd like the record to state that I had Dak higher than you on this one, so
I
that
know. I
that should go
know.
down in history.
Let's
Um
not let's not overplay this here. He's literally at 9 for me. Look, I'm gonna peek behind the curtain. He's right there.
yeah.
All right, let's not get carried away over here.
Yeah. And then I
Blasphemous.
didn't have Darnold this high initially. I think this is well, he's playing in the Super Bowl this year. And I did like some of his numbers, and I also liked you know, what was I trying to say here? Oh, I think when you think of a quarterback like Darnold who's playing with an elite level defense and a team that really we talked about during the power rankings, they really stuck to the run even though they weren't always efficient with it. I think when you look at that, you kind of look at well, they must have a game manager quarterback. They must have a guy that's not pushing the ball, but he did pretty consistently push the ball downfield. I think JSN led the league with 14 and a half yards per touch, and obviously he was his favorite target. And so I think that because the other guy's a little unproven, and I looked at the outlook, and this should be Seattle's setup for the next 2 years after this. And so it feels like relatively sustainable for a team that already won the best division and got the one seed and made it to the Super Bowl. We don't know how they did yet, but we'll know that by the time you're listening to this. So I was like, that feels a little bit more proven than some of the young guys, but I initially had him lower. I think when I started tiering things off, I was like, I can't have him at the bottom of the next tier because that's too low. So like I would advocate for him to be kind of, right around that Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, um, area. So maybe a little bit up from where you had him. But I think we both had Drake May, Caleb Williams. And so if I kind of like your argument that, well, these are the guys that, while they need to prove it, they have shown that they are the ones that are the best bet to crack into that top five. Whereas Dak's probably not getting into the top five anymore. Like would be his peak to stay top 10. So I would go, since we have May and Caleb right after each other and both Dak in front of uh, Jordan Love, I think I'd be okay with May, Williams, and then Dak. And then I'd start to advocate for Darnold in that next 10, 11 range a little bit, maybe. I mean, you had him down at 14, which isn't too far off either, but
And that's part of I mean, I had a tier break between 9, 10, 11, and then a guy at 12. and then I have a wide range at third. We'll get into that. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything. Again, I think this is the best I have felt about the top like 15, 16, 17 in a while.
Yep.
Um, but I think when it gets close, the two things that I kind of lean on are going to be the contract and the individual ability, just who these guys are. And I think for May and Williams to have been in such, I probably also given them credit for this, for them to have been in such bad situations just last year as really young players and not only show, hey, we're this top 10 QB talent
Yep.
in like places. Like I think we would have been really satisfied with both of them if both teams like just missed the playoffs or like were the 7 seed
Mhm.
and both guys were like inconsistent but had high level flashes. These their teams won the division mostly off of what they were doing, especially offensive. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Bears' run game was better than the pass game throughout the season, but by the end of the year, Williams and the pass game was cooking. I mean, they finished eighth in pass. The Bears finished eighth in pass offense DVOA, and Williams finished 13th in EPA per dropback. And remember, he did not start the year that hot. He started
Yep.
the year as the inconsistency and
Right.
accuracy issues and the flashes. Now we know Drake May. I mean, the Patriots were second in passing DVOA, first and May was first in EPA per dropback this season. But they just so clearly showed that that like it's real. It wasn't like two games at the very end of the season that didn't matter or whatever.
Right.
And they both I shouldn't say balled in the playoffs, but like played well in the playoffs
Yep.
that clearly puts them like, hey, we're knocking, we're right here. And to your point of like Dak, there's a clear difference. You know, when I just look at these eight, and you know, maybe this is we're like it trapped by what the board looks like that I've created. You know, which is completely subjective. Um, when I see those top six that we have.
Yeah.
And then I either on one end I see Drake May and Caleb Williams, and if this is your first time here, the left hand side is me, the middle column is Josh, right hand column is our consensus. And then I see Drake May and Caleb Williams with those six versus Dak Prescott and Sam Darnold with those six. I feel more aligned with the left hand side. But again, maybe that's just because that's my ranking.
No, I think the point that stuck with me that you said was we would have been content if these teams had narrowly missed the playoffs but had shown flashes. But not only did they make the playoffs, they won divisions and they each won a playoff game. Caleb Williams got a playoff win. And so I think that that's a one way to nudge them. Um, Drake May, by the way, was the other quarterback in the top 10 of approximate value. He was at 18. So him and Josh Allen were the only two quarterbacks on the top 10 for 2025 in terms of approximate value. Um, and then Caleb Williams led the league in comebacks since it was second in game-winning drives behind the immortal Bo Nix. So, he's battle
Oh,
tested now.
Nix.
They've both done it in crunch time. So like I think there is a little bit more proof than just an ascending young player. It's, the elite talent and they have a little bit of a track record now. They have a little bit of that proof of concept that they can win when it matters. And so I have no problem moving them up.
All right, so there's our top eight.
But now I can say I like Dak Prescott more than you, so I'm a bigger Prescott fan. Sorry. You had him all the way down at 9.
Listen, man. Listen. You can't really be in this realm with what you did down there in the late 20s, which we'll get to, that I messaged you about immediately upon sending me my rankings. You can't live in this Dak Prescott world that I live in and having done the thing that you did, which again we'll get to at the end of the show. So here's our top eight: Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Drake May, Caleb Williams. Again, this is our QB situation power rankings 4.0. This is how these teams and fan bases essentially feel about their quarterback based on quarterback talent, contract, offensive team situation, all rolled together. Those are the top eight. Let's get to our next eight here, Josh. I think Dak's gonna stick there at
Yep.
nine because
Yeah.
as much as you love Dak, I had him just 2 spots lower than you. Um, and that's where you had Drake May and Caleb Williams. So I'm gonna pull that up for everybody. So Dak is gonna be nine. Love Dak. Awesome year. He's got the stud wide receiver. Schottenheimer knows exactly how he wants plays called.
Yep.
They developed a run game. Like everything just clicked for that offense. If only they had a star edge rusher to really buoy that defense. That would be super duper helpful. Maybe they'll
Hard
draft
to
one.
have one
Who
of those.
knows? Who knows? So let's get into rounding out the top 10, trying to figure this out. So this is where you had Caleb Williams. You're going to make a case for Sam Darnold. This is where I had Jordan Love. And for me, that 9, 10, and 11 of Dak, Love, and Lawrence, that was a tier for me of the veteran, very good, but expensive guys. And that was part of that tiebreaker between them and then Drake May and Caleb Williams. Like those five quarterbacks this season showed that they are and can be very good. Like maybe they probably they at least have one or the other, on occasion both, of we can produce an elite offense and we can also be elite individual talent, right? Um, Dak can put up elite numbers and put up elite team numbers, maybe not an elite individual talent. Jordan Love, maybe he's not going to put up the elite individual numbers, but he has the elite talent with like a little bit of mobility, but crazy arm talent. And the Packers are a top five offense in every category. Every year he's the starter. Trevor Lawrence finally showed this year that he can quarterback a really good offense, put up good numbers, and we're seeing that talent that he's missing out on. He hasn't done it the way Dak and Jordan have done it, which is why he's at 11 for me, and Dak and Jordan get those top 10 spots.
Right.
Um, but that's that tier for me. And those are all things that the guys in my top eight do, but they either have done it more consistently or they do all of those things. Hey, we put together an elite team offense. I have an elite talent myself, and I put up elite numbers. These guys do maybe two of those things, but they're still expensive.
Yeah. And I think in the case of Trevor Lawrence, it's also kind of like we need to see it again, but this is also like he's older, like it's fifth, sixth year in this in the
Hmm.
league now, right? Like it's almost like he's a little bit of a late bloomer. I think he's great, and I think he will do well, continue to do well under Liam Cohen. But like we need
Oh,
to
look
see
at
what
this. Do I love Trevor Lawrence more than you? Is that what's happening here? 11 versus
you
12?
might, you might. I'm just happy I can tell people that Trevor Lawrence is good again because it was getting hard to do that after last year.
The bar has been lowered.
Yeah. So I'm not going to fight too hard to move any of these guys above Jordan Love. What I put is I kind of let Jordan Love's situation kind of bring him down a little bit. Not that it's a bad situation. You mentioned their offense was fifth overall. They're pretty elite. I feel like maybe it's I've been too many Packer fans in my life, but there's a lot of a little bit too stale that LaFleur stayed. Like they lost Halfley, they
Hmm.
lose some other pieces, but LaFleur's there still, and I still feel like they didn't end as well as they could have, and I feel like he needs a big bodied receiver. So I was gonna come on here and say like I know Matthew Golden's been my guy. He's my favorite receiver in last year's draft, and I was jealous that the Packers got him, but Jordan Love's needs that like he needs that like Mike Evans type. He needs like a Ted McMillan. He needs like a tall giant guy that's going to be the number one receiver. Like when Tucker Kraft was unguardable before he got hurt, this passing offense was really hard to beat. But outside of that, they have, one of your your nerdy Super Bowl podcast or whatever. Listen to part of that, and you're talking about the Packers are really young. They have a lot of young receivers. I feel like there's
Yes.
too much complementary pieces, and I feel like to really unlock Jordan Love, you do have to find that number one. I think for a while we said, well, LaFleur's a good play caller, and they work with everything so well. But I think when Kraft went down, even though they're still putting up good numbers and they have a great run game with Josh Jacobs, they have all this stuff. I feel like the situation around him isn't quite top 10. Do I think he's got the talent to be top 10? Absolutely. But that's why I dropped him a little bit lower because when I look at, I have Brock Purdy at 11, and when I look at
Hmm.
Brock Purdy, that's the exact opposite where yes, he's not as talented as Jordan Love. He's not as talented as
Hmm.
Trevor Lawrence. But the whole thing with him was, when they signed him to the big deal, we're like, was he worth it? Is
Right.
Mr. Irrelevant really worth the big money? And he is. And San
Yep.
Francisco is more of a
Hmm.
system thing. It is
Hmm.
more of a situation thing. And so it's if it comes down to talent, I'm not going to fight with you on Jordan Love there. If it's more situation, that's kind of where I went. So it is kind of a muddled mess here. I don't know. I feel like I still like Trevor Lawrence a little bit better than Jordan Love. And I don't know. And I still have to find a place for Sam Darnold, but I'm not really fighting for him up here in the top 10. So I guess he can drop further. I would say I need Darnold above. Darnold's got to be above Jaden Daniels for me. That would be the one. If you give me Darnold above Jaden Daniels, so you have at 12 and I have a little bit lower, I would let you go like Jordan. Love, Trevor Lawrence before Darnold, or maybe even Purdy. I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm thinking. I think I would say if I were to play a card, even though we haven't, I don't think we've played cards the last
We haven't
handful.
done cards in a year, man.
I would. Oh, the only one I would consider playing one is Darnold above Jaden Daniels, just because I think
Yeah,
that's where recency bias I think needs to come into play. Like he got to the Super Bowl, so. But
right.
other than that, I think we can go back and forth on talent and situation and outlook and stuff. So I don't know where you feel on that, or where you
Yeah,
stand
it's
on that.
fun. We kind of have to that those buckets of like the things that matter and the at the top, at the tippy top here, the individual talent, how good the true offense is that's put around, and I don't mean put around you like the supporting cast around you, but like how elite is your overall actual offense? Like what
Yeah,
sort of production is your team putting up? Um, and Brock Purdy and the Niners, despite the fact that like other than Christian McCaffrey, like that'll Trent Williams was banged up this year. All the receivers were hurt at different points. Kittle goes out late in the year and early in the year, and they were and Purdy was hurt for a good chunk
yeah,
of the year, and they were an elite offense, and so was he. Like they were the 49ers were third in passing DVOA this year, and he was fourth in EPA per dropback. Like he is an elite quarterback under the Shanahan system, and that means a lot. And if it was that, and then the Jags, the Packers, and the Seahawks were all like mid offenses, but those quarterbacks were better, I think Purdy would have a case to be above all of them.
yeah,
But the Packers and Jordan Love, that offense is elite. They were
yeah,
fourth in passing DVOA, and he was second in EPA per dropback. So he's one step ahead of Purdy in EPA per dropback, one step below him in the passing offense DVOA. So like the Packers offense is just as elite, and both teams were in really similar situations because the Packers, like Jaden Reed was hurt all season.
yeah,
And Matthew Golden was just like irrelevant. And then Tucker Kraft gets hurt. And their offensive line had a ton of different combinations. Those guys were getting hurt. They haven't found a good five in a while, which is weird to say. It actually all started when they started drafting guys and paying guys. That hasn't worked out. First round pick Jordan Morgan can't find a spot on the line. I didn't love that pick when it happened, but here we are. And yet, and the run game was still effective in points, but it wasn't as nearly as good as it was last year.
yeah,
So Love and Purdy are putting up elite offenses, and I think we just know that Love is more talented, I should say.
correct.
So then it's okay, well, if we're gonna put Love over Purdy, should that be 10 and 11? And then do Trevor Lawrence and Sam Darnold get a slight bump down? But then you're like, well, Sam Darnold, I mean, I have it here. He was 11th in EPA per dropback, so that's a significant enough step down. But they were fifth in passing offense DVOA and so explosive, like we've been saying all year. And then Trevor Lawrence was actually like just very good. Where his numbers were 11th in passing offense DVOA and 15th in EPA per dropback.
Yeah,
So you could almost really even say it could be like Love at 10, Purdy at 11, Darnold at 12, Lawrence at 13. But when I look at those four guys, I also just look at Lawrence and I'm like, he's the most talented out of all of
yeah,
them. And their offense was surging at the end of the year. But maybe that's something where more in the preseason, maybe the 5.0, because again, we do this preseason, we do it
yeah,
right at the end of the season. And I haven't really asked you about that. I've been meaning to. Like, what's going to change for you? What are factors that change for you between February and August when we do this that makes us move things? And I think it would be things like seeing how free agency and the draft play out, right?
yeah,
Seeing if the Packers get that kind of receiver, seeing in training camp that the lines for the receivers are Myers and Parker Washington in the slot and Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter is just playing on defense. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, then I think I know what this Jaguars offense is. And if it's nope, Travis Hunter is getting all or 60% of first team reps again and 60% of first team defensive reps again, then be like, I don't feel that confident in how that went because
right,
that's not when
right.
the Jags and Lawrence were at their best last. But or we could just say Darnold should actually be up there with Lawrence and Love, and Purdy because he's not individually as talented should be a step lower. I don't know where should those three buckets kind of win out? You think individual talent versus team
Yeah,
offense versus Um, I guess those are the two main things. And it's really just about where should Purdy lie with these three guys.
Yeah, I think when you get into this discussion, I think that it does have to be a tiebreaker for the talent because you're looking at this as it is a quarterback centric ranking. So while situation plays a role, I think talent could be something that kind of nudges one guy over the other. And especially since Purdy missed some time this year and San Francisco never I mean they weren't perfect when he was down and they didn't have the toughest schedule, but they had a good season overall, and they are okay without him. They can survive, even though I do think he enhances things. Um, I would stop. So I'd be okay with Love at 10. And then, the one thing I was gonna say about Trevor Lawrence is the Liam Cohen factor, kind of unlocking the rushing upside of Trevor Lawrence. I feel like defenses are gonna still have a hard time. And I feel like he's kind of coming into his talent. So I would feel better if we did Love 10 and then Trevor Lawrence at 11. Um, and then at that point, I would say I would go Darnold then Purdy, and that's mainly because I mean I had Darnold all the way up at 8, so gotta try to force him back in here at some point, and then we can do Purdy as this is still not a knock on Purdy because he was never supposed to be this high, and we've had him lower on our list for a while, but now he's proven himself to hold his own, but he does have the benefit of not just a really good system, but a consistent one, right? If you look at Trevor Lawrence and his talent, I mean, he had 3 different years with 3 different coaches, and he had the Urban Meyer year and then the Doug Peterson year. Like there are other factors at play, and so I think we look at what's the individual talent, and then I'd feel good about the way it looks now, and then kind of getting into the Jaden Daniels discussion. It's like a lot of what we would say about him is based off his first year because last year feels like kind of a wash. I know he played a decent amount, but not enough for a full-time starter. But that looks pretty right to me right there.
Okay. So we're going with Dak at 9, Jordan Love at 10. So we're especially with Dak there too. That feels right. Like Dak, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Sam Darnold. Those are like big arm, mobile enough, um, gunslinging type guys who don't always reach their peak from a talent standpoint, but can quarterback elite offenses still.
Right.
And then Brock Purdy is just like hanging out there between that tier and Jaden Daniels, who's an ultra freak athlete in his own right.
Yep.
But Purdy puts up elite offenses every time he's out there. I will say one tiebreaker I was about to get into was like Mac Jones is also top 10 in EPA per dropback from this season. He was playing with like a broken knee the whole time he was out there. So like part of it is the Shanahan bump, but again, Purdy's just great in it, and he is better than he was initially given credit for in his career. I think we're past that now. I think people know what Purdy is, but I think 13 is a good spot for him.
Yep.
That top 12, that top 12 is like these are dudes to some degree. These are
Right.
ultra talented, big, can put up elite numbers, can put up elite offenses. And then there's Purdy, and then there's Jaden Daniels, who we still think very highly of. I think he's moving down 2 or 3 spots
Right.
from our preseason. And that's just a nature of like who saw what was coming for Sam Darnold this
Right.
year, who saw what was coming for Trevor Lawrence,
Right.
and then I think it's literally just those three guys passing him basically for Daniels, and it's
Oh
just
yeah, for sure.
an incomplete year, similar to Lamar. Like Daniels was hurt essentially all year. His number one receiver went from training camp holdout to hurt for most of the season. Um, Clearly, the behind the scenes stuff for the Commanders isn't all sunshine and rainbows the way we thought it was last year at this time. So weird year, weird situation. It's kind of just a write off. He's not losing ground, but it's more guys are just getting ahead of him.
Yep. I think
So
that's a
I'm still very confident in Jane
yeah, I
Daniels.
think that's the right way to look at it. Guys are earning it more than him because of his unfortunate circumstances.
One rule of power rankings that we broke in the top 8, but I was okay with, was if we usually have a guy, if we have a team or a rank the same, we usually keep them in that spot. That's just like a fun way we do it, even if we would maybe argue
Yep.
it a different way when we get in the moment. We flubbed that with Burrow, but I'm fine with that. But here, like
Yep.
Goff being the 16th best quarterback, I think is just perfect. He's just
Yep.
like
Yep.
Goff.
Right
He's
down the
right there in the
middle.
middle. He gets you what you need. Usually leaves a little bit to be desired. the contract isn't an albatross situation anymore. The fact that Ben Johnson left, I remember preseason, because let's see, where did we have him preseason? We had him at 18, actually.
Goff, we
Um,
had Goff at 18?
we had to go off at 18. Or
Wow.
am I looking at my 3.0? Is that why my numbers are all messed up?
Maybe. We had Goff at No, we had Goff at 18. I have it
Okay.
pulled
All
up.
right. Cool. 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 So we had Goff at 18, and I think that was literally we won him in the 15 to 16 range for himself. But again, the preseason, we're factoring like coaches and coaching changes and offensive situations. We're like, Ben Johnson's gone. So we've never seen him, it's been a while since we've seen him good without Ben Johnson. So we got to dock him. And then this year, the Lions, I know the team fell short, but let's see, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Oh, what is this ranked by? Where are we at? Where'd you go, Jared Goff? Ooh, this isn't. Where are you?
What are you looking
Hang
at?
on,
Are you
there he
looking
is. There he is.
at
There he is. I got it. I'm
Okay.
looking at my own stupid sheet. You won't find it. Um, the Lions were sixth in passing offense DVOA, and he was fifth in EPA per dropback this season. So like, he's still putting up near elite numbers without Ben Johnson. And again, the contract isn't a big deal. So like, considering we both have very different things at 15,
Yep.
maybe we flub the rule for quarterbacks. Maybe that's just a in-season team power ranking rule. But like, I could see Goff going up to 15. And I think that's totally fine. I think if you have Goff, unless you're my guy Muhammad, you're just like, you know what, Goff, just like set it and forget it. We won't worry about it, but we won't get too excited about it. I know they all think Goff is top 10, but I think everyone should just be fine with Goff.
Yeah.
But do you want to make a case for Goff to move up, or should we do the golden rule? Or do we just keep him at 16?
I don't we need to move him up at all. I was gonna say that I have a weird tier here. It's just Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff. So that's what that I was gonna say. Well, maybe we bring up Jalen Hurts and see if he's worthy to stay above CJ Stroud, because I have CJ Stroud right after Jared
Okay.
Goff. So we can I wouldn't hate putting him at 15. My tier here with Hurts and Goff is a lot of what you said. Good player, good track record, but it needs help. Like, I think that we saw finally what happens when the Eagles aren't elite all across the board. Jalen Hurts is not an elite quarterback. He's never been an elite passer. He's a gamer, he's a competitor. He's not bad by any means, but he's not going to do enough on his own. And Goff is the same way, right? When they have injuries to the O line or young O line guys, like he can't take them to the next level on his own. He needs the full team to be functioning well. So that was that team there. Um, do you want to talk Stroud and Knicks as well before we put in the 15, or do you want to move? Because I'm okay moving Goff up one spot. I don't think we have to. We
Yeah,
already
because
broke our rule once, so
yeah, at that point. Here was my thing with the tier. So 13 to my 19, this was my biggest tier actually,
oh, okay.
was good quarterbacks that need slash only have been in good situations, right? So
Oh,
like
okay. Yeah.
Brock Purdy is the top of that.
Right.
And then so it was Brock Purdy and then Sam Darnold because like not only are they in good situation, but it's like putting up elite stuff. Um, Stroud was a major faller for us. I think we had him at 7 preseason.
That's
He's down to
7, yeah.
8. We were really holding out hope going in this year,
Yep.
and unfortunately, he seems like he's falling into this Goff, Baker, Jalen Hurts tier of like can be good in a above average situation, but like maybe he's not going to be a quarterback that you win because of, right? And like
Right.
we're not saying it's impossible. We just talked about how Trevor Lawrence turned it back around
Yep.
in year 5 or 6 or whatever it was. Stroud's going into year 4 next year,
Right.
and he's never had his like full whatever. Anyways, we're not doing the whole thing right now. But Purdy and Darnold were in the upper echelon of that for me, and then 15 to 17 was a mini tier of C.J. Stroud, Jared Goff, and then Baker, who you buried
I
because that's
buried.
just your arch rival.
He is.
Um,
Yeah. I'm not.
but those three, Stroud, Goff, and Baker, I think can still, in some form or fashion, be the quarterback of elite offenses. I think like a Bo Nix and a Jalen Hurts, they could be, but they are firmly taking a backseat to that. Like we have an
Yeah.
elite O line, elite run game, and elite wide receivers, and now our offense is elite, and I'm just not screwing it up because it's also based on how they play. And
Right.
this is where we're getting into what I talk about with Dak and why I'm the true Dak believer here. Stroud, Goff, and Baker are gonna rip it, right? They're just gonna let loose. They're gonna hit the seam ball. They're gonna hit a tight window. They're gonna
Yep.
hold the ball for an extra beat if they can. Bo Nix and Jalen Hurts, man, it's go balls, it's flats, um, and it's the occasional to somewhat often, in Nix's case, scramble around.
Right.
But Stroud, Goff, and Baker, they're just gonna make more plays. Like Stroud wants to do that. He was successful at that as a rookie. He's gone away from that a little bit at times since then. He was doing it at the beginning of this season. Then he had the concussion, and then he went back away from it. So Hurts, man, this would be him moving down 6 spots. I have him at 19. That would be 6 spots. So 15 would be going down 2 spots from where we had in preseason. I thought this was just a real tough year for him, man. It's just a real tough year. And the vibes are all bad and it seems to be all centered around him.
Yeah.
The offensive line is falling apart. Coaching staff is falling apart. He's going to have another new OC. So many offensive coordinators didn't want to go there, which is a huge red flag for me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people don't want to go coach this guy. This guy just was Super Bowl MVP last season, and people don't want to go coach him. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's not a place I want to be right now. So that was why I kind of buried Hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, how do you sort those guys out though?
I think the way it makes sense in my head is we'll go Goff 15. I gotta have Stroud above Baker, and then I'll give you Baker at 17. I buried him for those watching and listening. I have him at like 24 or whatever. Um, but it's kind of unfair because I did see
Wild.
that when I was tweaking and I was like, he's not that low. But then I kept him there because
and then I,
because of
and
my
then I did it anyways.
and I kept him there because of my vendetta for years ago because if you've been keeping track, this is the third year of that Baker Mayfield run it back contract. The third year, he got the 3 year, $100 million deal, right? This is that final year. And while it's completely, what's the word I'm looking for? I shouldn't be reducing it to the fact that they haven't really done much in those 3 years because it would take away from how he actually has played pretty well and he was good at a lot of times. This year he's been good and even better last year. Like he's has not been playing poorly necessarily. But I think for me, it just points out like hindsight's 2020, but I don't think the Bucks should have gone this route personally. And that's what I said at the time. And so again, it's not really fair for me to do that because you could do that for a million teams, a million, but this one sticks out to me because it bothered me for some reason that they did it. I don't know why I got so hurt by the fact that the Bucks decided to do this. I don't even dislike Baker Mayfield. I cannot explain this vendetta, but I was like,
You were really irrational. Honestly, you know what it really came down to is when we started doing power rankings officially, like doing a
yeah,
power ranking show like this. The Bucks were the
my
Vikings week
32.
one matchup, so you were
Yeah,
just fired. You just
yes, I
saw
was.
red literally, and now it's anti-Bucks anything. You just try
So
to put Mike Evans on the Packers. You're trying to get rid of all their talent.
that's right.
Trying to
That's
purge
right.
the whole thing.
That's right. I picked the
Um,
weirdest things to focus on because I don't focus on all my failures. I don't take a ton of victory laps, but for some reason I'm focusing on the vindication that the Bucks didn't win anything on this 3 year Baker Mayfield contract. So that's way too obscure to bury him. So we can throw him in at 17. Um I I'd rather talk more about Stroud anyway because he's been our guy for years, and I'm starting to get really worried. Like he's for this upcoming season here. He's my new Trevor Lawrence slash Justin
yep.
Fields, right? Like I'm going to give him one more year
Oh, Justin
where
Fields.
I'm in his corner. And with Trevor Lawrence, it paid off. With Justin Fields, unfortunately, it did not. And so, um, but I was trying to find some stats on CJ Stroud to tell the story, and it's really hard. But I also can't just give him a free pass because his offensive line stinks, right? So I did find that his adjusted completion percentage against the rush is like 20th. It's not particularly great. He also had the lowest drop percentage, so his receivers aren't letting him down. It's not like he doesn't have weapons around him. Um, at some point, you have to look at CJ Stroud and say he's just
Hmm.
sophomore slump. We tried to write it off, but this year
Yep.
was still part of him not developing enough, and so. I think 17 is a good or 16 is a good spot for him. I did keep him above Bo Nix because my two guy tier here at 17, 18, I had Stroud and Nix. It was for both of them, it was could climb the mountain or could sink to the bottom of the ocean. Like that's why they're here
Mm-hmm.
for me and not further down because like And I think CJ Stroud's still to me the guy with the most upside, and he's going
Yeah.
to have a better chance of getting there. Bo Nix is only here right now because he's kind of proved me wrong to an extent, but I still don't
Hmm.
see him ascending to anything. It's much more likely to me that he struggles and loses his job within the next 3 years than it is that he, competes for an MVP. So I like Stroud's upside still barely, but it's kind of it's going to be hard to be in on him after another season like this. Um, and then my Bo Nix hate was because he was like tied for third or fourth in attempts in like play action screen. Like you can look up that play concept, but he's like 19th in his grade on that, on like the thing he did almost the most. And to look at the other side of it, Matt Stafford had the most attempts and had the best grade at it, right? So
Hmm.
you take a guy that's elite running the play action on the screen, you can see how
Hmm.
much better that quarterback is. So while Bo Nix is going to put up nice numbers and fantasy managers are going to enjoy starting him, and he's going to look good because he had so many game-winning drives this past year, like you're going to look at Bo Nix and say, hey, well, with Sean Payton, I mean, this defense, they have years ahead of them to be good, and that might
Hmm.
be true, but it's going to be much more in spite of Bo Nix or with Bo Nix along for the ride than it is going to be because of his play, I still think. Um, so 18 feels right. We both had him there, so I
Yep.
think that I think we keep him there for sure. And then yeah, then Hertz has got to be 19. It is wild to have a guy with his winning track record this low, but I mean, it's he needs the full team to be operating at full
Yep.
capacity. He for sure does. So
My last thing on Stroud and for the slide, this is also just bad timing for those questions to have not been answered coming out of year two because now he's extension eligible. So now you're wondering
right.
what you're gonna do. So while all these guys, like while Jared Goff is getting $50 million a year, and so is Trevor Lawrence, and Darnold has 2 more years on his deal at nice money, and Brock Purdy's a $50 million a year guy. You know you can have elite offenses with those guys. Um, and Stroud, we're like, are we ever gonna get to that, or is this just gonna be an average offense, and we're gonna have, and you're maybe slightly above average quarterback, and we're gonna have to decide if that means $50 million, or if you're going to be willing to take a mid-tier. You're not. You were the second overall pick, and if we're going to give you a second contract, like you're going to want $50 million. So how are we going to play this out? I will say for Stroud though, to not totally crater him, he was 10th in EPA per dropback with that terrible offense around him. So he's still, and again, I don't have the exact number at this moment if it's actually a plus number or not, or if he's just the best of everybody, like slightly doing poorly every time they drop back. But he's ahead of Sam Darnold in that stat, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. So he's ahead of a lot of these guys that we like. Um, he at the end of the day, well, I can't say he's not going to be the one to lose games because he had a bunch of turnovers in the playoffs, but 16 feels right for him, all things considered. Let's get Let me get the graphic up here for everybody at home of that next year. The thing for me with Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, because we're putting Baker at 17 though, right?
correct.
Okay.
And then
Baker at 17. Again, similar to Goff and Stroud for me. He's just gonna, you got him on the contract. Although if you're like, is he going into his last year? Is 2027 the last, like, or does he
yeah,
have
so
a fake
the
year? I'm sure it's
2027
not a
is a
void year.
2027 is a void year and he's a UFA. So this
Okay.
is his last year and the cap hit's big this year too. It's 51 million,
Yeah.
almost 52
So
million.
So I wonder if one could argue we could drop him below Knicks and Hurts just because of that, the contract issue.
That's what
But
I
at the
did.
that's sure that's what you were doing. You're thinking ahead about what they're gonna have to do next.
That's right.
Uh, but by your math, they should be like, okay, Baker's a better player than those two, and we're free of him after this year, so we can
Yeah.
also improve because he sucks so bad, apparently, according to Josh, because he's at 24. Um, Below a player that we don't even know what team he's going to be on next year. Anyways, um, the
Talent,
thing
talent.
with the thing with Bo Nix and Jalen Hurts is they're the same player at this point now, where it's screens, it's run game, it's check down, it's go balls. But Bo Nix just is going to try stuff a little bit more. He's gonna run and scramble more. He's started to throw over the middle of the field later in the season, so we'll see if that sort of thing continues. Um, but that was what separated those two for me were like in that tier of 13 and 19. They were in their own mini tier, and
Mhm.
and that was the tiebreaker. Nick's is just gonna do more stuff. Hertz is just kind of out there, which is crazy to say, for somebody like Hertz, who yes is not one of the elite guys. No matter what everybody that saw him win the Super Bowl wanted to say after he won the Super Bowl, put him at top five quarterback or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but he's just not like he's just dropping back and shotgun and throwing go balls, and if that doesn't work, that's all he's got. And then
Yeah.
that's a tough place to be. And again, nobody wants to go coach him. So Bo Nix ahead of Hertz, and then we both did a young guy tier after that for a little bit.
Yep.
Um, starting at what you had Dart at 19. But
Yep.
I had Cam at 20, and then we kind of went through those three rookies from the year: Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck. Talk to me how you feel about those rookie performances.
Well, this was my tier six, and it was entitled "Green Players Ready to Go the Distance." See what I did there, right? These are very young,
Green means go. Is that what
yeah,
you're
green
so?
means go. Yeah, it's
Okay, all right.
high level stuff here. But either way, these are rookies that you should feel really good about if you're the fan base in New York, New Orleans, or Tennessee. I mean, not like super good, like you're not winning the Super Bowl next year, but in terms of where your situation is, it should feel pretty good. Um, I really liked what I saw from Dart, even though he did get hurt a little bit. But I think the Harbaugh hire is a big deal for him. I think that um, Malik Neighbors missed most of the last year. When he comes back, like the tough part with the Giants is the offensive line. And so if they can't put that together, that none of it may matter. But if they can, I do think he showed me enough to get me excited for him to be a quarterback of an offense that's pretty good. Um, Tyler Shuck was just, I think he's just a perfect fit for the Saints. We've talked about that on the power ranking show. Like, he's exactly the low stakes guy they need where they're not going to have to overpay to keep him. But again, hopefully they start doing smart things and get themselves back into a good cap spot. And in the NFC South, he can compete with them. They can win a division with him. That's not out of the question. They can get to the playoffs with him over the next couple of years. And because of his draft capital, unless he completely lights it up and takes off, which I don't see necessarily happening, um, it should be in a pretty healthy situation, whether if they're going to extend him or not. And I like, you already mentioned Kellen Moore's coaching staff is going to stay on, so might be a little bit too much with the situation here again with New Orleans, but to give Tyler Shuck credit, um, I think we mentioned last time like his maturity definitely came through as a rookie, as an older rookie, and so I
Hmm.
think that he's a little bit more ready made, which is why I had him above Cam Ward. And as much as I like Cam Ward and still think that you should be really excited if you're Tennessee, he did have a pretty rough season, even, for being thrown into the fire. It's not necessarily all on him, but he didn't have a single receiver over 600 yards. His leading receptions guy in Tennessee was Chigo Okonkwo, so it's a tight end. So he's doing a lot of the stuff. But then I put afterwards because at first I was like, do I have him too high? And then I kept him there because I was like, given the recency bias, it's almost good that he didn't take off in his rookie year. Like this is one of those situations where like this is what's supposed to happen. You throw a rookie
Yeah.
quarterback to the fire, he's going to struggle. He had 15 touchdowns, 7 picks. Like nothing to suggest that next year they're going to get to the playoffs. But at the same time, he did show enough. He does have that top five talent. He has now the whole season under his belt from a learning standpoint, and the Titans are like the team with the most open cap space. So like this is the
Hmm.
time where they can build around him and it'll be a second year. It just this is where you want to be, right? He still may not
Yeah.
work out, but this is where you want to be when you're a team that's rebuilding. And so I had him below because I think out of Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck and him, I think he had the worst overall season, at least statistically for sure, and also with the contributing to winning games. Um, thing was a little rough, but I also want to make sure I'm saying that I'm still high on Cam. Like I'm still in favor of him and think that he's going to do well. So.
The line of contributing to winning games thing is what got me, because that tends to be important. I will say, just comparing the three of them, DVOA and EPA per drop back, Cam Moore was by far the worst. He was 20, or the Titans were 29th in passing offense DVOA, and he was 31st in EPA per drop back, whereas Tyler Shuck was 27th and 25th in those, and Jackson Dart was the best in both, 23rd and 19th in EPA per drop back for Dart. Yeah, the output of the team, right? And the Titans, by virtue of them having had Cam Ward as the first overall pick, and I know Dart for the Giants, like, they had the third overall pick, so it's not like they were that much better. But you look at the coaching situations that those two guys had as rookies, and even though both were for coaches that got fired during their rookie seasons, like Callahan was never going to work. That was a horrible coaching hire from the moment it happened. Meanwhile, Jackson Dart, at least Daboll, like, is a quarterback guy, is an offensive guy, and believed in Dart wholeheartedly. So like they were putting out offense that was going to work for Dart regardless. Um, and this might be another thing that now, and now that guy is the OC for Cam Ward, and Jackson Dart is going to have Matt Nagy. So how
No.
much do we how much do we factor that? Yeah, that just came in this afternoon. Matt Nagy is going to be the offensive coordinator for John Harbaugh and the New York Giants.
Okay.
Um, which like intellectually I'm intrigued by, but I don't know if that gives me confidence. But again, do we like this might be a thing, another one of those things. I forget which players we were talking about. Oh, Trevor Lawrence. Of course it was. But between these three, like this might be where the difference is in our 4.0 kind of postseason versus the 5.0 preseason when we're like, ooh, man, Dayball's got some stuff cooking for Cam Ward. They drafted Carnell Tate third overall, so they've got a top dog receiver now. Things are sounding really, really good. Ooh, Malik Neighbors like is coming back slow from his knee injury. Like, training camp vibes aren't great around that. I heard that Cam Scatabo head butted Matt Nagy in the chest the other day. Like the vibes aren't great. Um, we don't know what stuff is going to come out by August, so maybe this is from a standpoint of I wish you had James on to see how he feels right now. But like the Cam Ward stuff, the what it feels like the people that are still feeling really good about Cam Ward are the people that like are watching the film and posting it, and then the people that see that and they're like, "Wow, look at that cool throw. We know that cool throw is in him." Or the fans that watch every play and they're like, "You know what? At least this is a good player." But like, I think fan bases as a whole are in on Dart and in on Shuck, and they're gonna find other people to blame if it doesn't work out, essentially. Like right now, they're like, we got our guy for next year. And maybe by nature of him having been the first overall pick and they're having new coaching staff in, there might be even Titans fans that are like, even still just a little tight. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like this, there's a lot of pressure here. There's a lot. Whereas Dart, it's like, hey, it was 27th pick. What happens? What happens? Shuck, 41st pick. What happens? What happens? You might about your feeling about your quarterback situation a little more tight if you're a Titans fan or you're stepping into as the coaching staff of the Titans and you're like, we got to make this guy work versus Harbaugh is like, I mean, they came and got Dart or they came and yeah, they came and got Dart because that was Dayball's guy. I can move on from
Mhm.
him if I want to.
Right.
For the Saints and we really like Chuck, we really believe him. Second round pick. We can take a big swing next year if we need to, kind of thing. So I'll go with your ranking for that. I think
Okay.
that makes sense if we go those three guys, Dart, Chuck, and Cam Ward after Hurts there. Um, so you have Kyler at 22. I don't have Kyler ranked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not be not because I don't like I just took this is where I start getting into the I'm looking at the team situations. And I don't think Kyler's going to be the quarterback for the
Right.
Arizona Cardinals. So I'm looking at the Arizona Cardinals, who you can see here from my list. I have Fernando Mendoza at 23 because I think he should be in that tier with Ward, Dart, and Chuck. And that tier
Okay.
for me is young and not sure, but promising. Like I've got a
Yeah.
young guy I feel excited about seeing next year, and probably for a couple years. And then there's Bryce Young there at 24, and he starts a new tier for me of we have an answer for 2026, but maybe not 2027. And then
Okay.
after that is where I have the Arizona Cardinals because they're in a we don't know who our quarterback for 2026 is yet.
Yeah. I'm not going to defend Kyler there at 22 very hard. I just, what I did was, well, he's still technically on roster, and I don't
This is
know.
the point in Josh's ranking where he got very literal about who he listed, and there are some funny names and pictures that are going to be on the next sheet. So if you're still watching on YouTube, just wait like 5 more minutes because we're going to get there. Go ahead.
My thing was, I didn't know, like, because yes, the writing's on the wall. It looks like Kyler Murray's gone, right? So, like, If he goes to the Jets, for example, who knows? Like, is that a possibility? I don't know. So I
Steelers.
totally understand looking at the Cardinals as a thing, but I was like, but then there's some other like you'll see the guys later on the list. I kind of just went with depth chart and was like, I'm just gonna go with who's there. For now, just because I didn't want to try to speculate too much. And as I was thinking about Kyler Murray, I'm looking at the guys below him, and I'm like, well, he's the best quarterback there, talent
Uh-huh.
wise.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, because talent wise, he could be way higher than this anyway, but he just hasn't shown it. So I had a really big tier here, and I titled it "There's talent here somewhere." But we haven't seen it consistently enough to be excited. And then in parentheses, I wrote, or in a while with Kyler Murray, because it's like full of these young guys, like you said, or Baker Mayfield, but that was just me messing with Baker Mayfield a little bit. But this was like there's some talent here, but we just don't see it consistently enough. So I'm not going to advocate for Kyler there next. And Bryce Young is interesting. We both have him there because I think you're right about the fact that for next year it's fine, but then it's he's going to need an extension. And if you're Carolina, I don't care how great Dave Canales does with him. Like, there's no way he doesn't want a new quarterback right now, in Carolina. And
Yeah.
so there's not much of an outlook there, and I don't know what his prospects look like anywhere else. I'm not sure he gets a starting job again, and it's tough for him, but he's earned at least a shot to try to get one. And so like he played admirably last year, but he's just not there, and it's been too up and down. And there's no way they're going to extend him. Um, so I had him in a similar spot because of that. We both had my guy, future MVP JJ McCarthy at 25.
We'll talk about him. We'll get there. Um, one last thing on Kyler for me. Yeah, for you have him in the exact spot that I would have him after those guys that have played. Although maybe I would have him below Mendoza as well, just because Mendoza is a little more exciting at this point than. But if we just knew where Kyler was going to
Right,
be,
right.
but just a question mark of where he is going to be or not. Yeah, Bryce Young is interesting. He does just enough at the end of the last two seasons to not get the full vote of confidence, but like a half vote of confidence. Like after year two, everyone's like, maybe he's not going to get the extension after his third season, but like you can let him play out the rookie contract, right? Or let him come back next year. We went from him getting benched after a few weeks, and we were
Yeah.
like, oh, this they're gonna be looking for their new quarterback next year. To, oh no, we're gonna see what happens. And then he played just well enough, kind of throughout this whole year of like, just let him play out the 4 years, but don't even pick up his fifth year option. Just like play out year four, and then look for a new quarterback in 2027. Which is why he goes below Mendoza for me. We'll get to you're a representative for the Raiders and their quarterback situation here in a moment. Um, so for Mendoza, I don't know how much of your own draft stuff you've done yet, but just from a situation with the Raiders, you have the first overall pick. You have all the cards in your hands. I'm trying to find somebody that's in favor of the Raiders should, now that it's a one QB draft, take a king's ransom for the first overall pick. If the Jets or the Browns or somebody want to trade three first round picks plus some stuff to go get Mendoza.
Yeah.
But everyone's kind of the same mind, like they should just sit and pick Mendoza. So assuming that happens, assuming the Raiders go and get a number one overall pick at quarterback, where would you slot him among all this if that was what I was making you do?
Yeah, I like what you said earlier about putting him with some of these new rookie guys. I will say, honestly, I have not watched enough of his college tape to see as a prospect if I think he's better than, even McCarthy. I mean, McCarthy, we have recency bias. It doesn't look good right now, um, but I definitely think at first glance, he would be a higher than Bryce Young in that regard. I did watch some of the college football playoff. I like your idea about the King's ransom for the Raiders though, because they have to fix that offensive line honestly before
They
they
got
do.
a
Like
lot of stuff that's going on.
they need to get Ashton Genty going, and then they can put a quarterback back there. But it's I get it. It's hard to pass up, and so I don't know if people would pay King's ransom for that, but I like him just above Bryce Young, right behind those rookies
Okay.
or those second year guys. I'm okay with that.
For reference, last year when we did this version, where we did the 2.0, so postseason last year, we had the Titans who had the first overall pick at 28. So this would be a bump up from our
Yeah.
precedent. And they were behind. They were actually behind Bryce Young. They were behind J.J. McCarthy. They were behind the Steelers. We didn't even know what that situation was going to be. We had him behind Anthony Richardson, the Colts. So maybe we're giving too much credit, but I think this is
No, it's that.
also kind of proof of what we think about the next group
I
down,
just
and there's some questions there.
I was just gonna say it looks our last graphic. It looks disgusting. It looks so gross that I think you have that nice picture of Mendoza with the tie on. They
Hey,
should keep
oh
him in
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
tier before.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he looks legitimate. He should be up here. All right, so here, real quick. There's the Ask Canva button for everybody watching. So there's our start to the back half here. Baker, Bo Nix, Jalen Hurts, as our like kind of needs to be in a good situation group at the end there, and then you've got your young guys that we're excited about: Dart, Shuck, Cam Ward, Fernando Mendoza, and then Bryce Young, just like yeah, young guy that you just kind of let play out the rest of the season. Um, Now let's get into these guys here.
Yeah.
Um,
My final tier was called. You remember the Titans fan, Simon?
of course, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Zero fun, sir. Football is fun. Zero fun, sir. This tier, there's no hope and there's no fun, and it's just disastrous. The top of this tier, did I have Shadur here? Oh no, I had
You
JJ
you wrote
McCarthy.
Shador. Yeah, well, yeah,
But then
no,
I
you
put
didn't have
Shadur
Shador number
next.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you wrote Shador Sanders' name on here. You sure did.
I did. I did. Well, do we get, well, McCarthy gets locked in at
Well,
25, right?
McCarthy, yeah, a boy, way to go, McCarthy. That's what I'm talking about.
Showing the
25.
promise. Showing the promise.
The fact that I'm looking, I have to give you a hard time because the fact that I'm looking at Kenny Pickett's face and Aaron Rodgers' face as a Steelers fan on this sheet is really upsetting to me. Um, we both have choked up. We both have Daniel Jones right about here.
Oh, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you just want to put him next, or do you want to
Yeah.
advocate for Shadur Sanders to be above him?
No, let's put Daniel Jones there. I dropped him.
Listen,
This is
Pro Bowler Shadur Sanders, Daniel Jones, free agent coming off of an Achilles tear. I think there's a reasonable conversation we could have.
Well, I did give Shadur the nod because of, for all the things about him being drafted so late, and we never thought he was a first round talent. We just assumed someone would take him too high in the first round. For all that considered, he played okay given the opportunity he was given. And so the reason he's so far up, he's at the tail end of that tier where there's talent somewhere.
Hmm,
I
hmm.
still think there's way too much air under his ball. He doesn't have the zip that he needs to fit the NFL tight windows. But that being said, his accuracy is good, his touch is good, and he definitely doesn't look like he's scared of the moment. So there were enough good qualities there to see that there's some talent there. I don't know if he'll be the starter next year. I don't know if he's got a future necessarily, but I was like, I saw enough that I'll give him a nod now, especially because of everything else we have on this page. And the Daniel Jones was like, where am I going to put him? Because, man, I saw a thing where his timetable puts him back for training camp, but an Achilles injury, like you don't
Yeah,
come back
they.
well from that, especially like we saw Kirk Cousins not too long ago, most recent example, come back, really take a long time to get back up to
Hmm.
speed. And he's a really accurate, like really good passer. Daniel Jones relies on his mobility. And I
Right.
don't know how even mentally confident you can be coming back from an Achilles, a non-contact Achilles tear. It's a bummer. So, but unless you're going to predict, AR5's meteoric rise this season.
Yeah.
The Colts quarterback situation is rough, and it's not Daniel Jones' fault. He played himself. The way he played before injury last year puts him at least on the next page for sure, if not
Right.
even the end of the top half. But unfortunately, that injury just derails everything. You don't come back well from an Achilles, and especially a guy that needs the mobility, especially a guy that runs like he does. So that's why he had to be down in this tier. But on sentimental value alone, I don't need to advocate for Shador there, but I would, you have the Browns at 32. Who do you think's gonna be the Browns quarterback?
I don't know. I don't know, man. Well, so from last week's quarterback prediction show, actually yesterday's quarterback prediction show for me right now, um, they were. I ultimately said I do think Shador is going to be the week one starter, but I think
Right.
this is a team that isn't necessarily, and that's not even true. I mean, they should probably be higher. You're probably right. the fact that still so much of their cap is being devoted to Deshaun Watson is obviously still pulling them down. They don't have a lot of wiggle room in the cap to do something else from a free agent standpoint. Now they have the ability to draft somebody. Let me look at what my tiers actually were down here. But they have the ability to draft somebody, and I do ultimately think they'll either get QB2 or QB3 in the draft, and it depends on how early they want to make the move and how early the Jets want to make the move. Who we both have the Jets down here in one form or fashion. We'll get to that. Um, because the Jets have picks 16, 33, and 46 or something like that, and then the 49ers have like 27 and 39 or something like that. So between those five picks is where I predicted like a Ty Simpson and a Garrett Nussmeier go.
Sure.
And I don't think either of those are like franchise saviors. I probably have both of those guys. I would definitely have Nussmeier below Shuck from my rankings last year if I were to compare them. I had Shuck below Dart. I'd have Simpson below Dart for sure. I'd probably have Simpson below Shuck. Um, so like either way, I'm thinking like more of day two guys in the draft.
Yeah.
Um, and they feel like the best candidate to just like have a hodgepodge, weird young quarterback. I mean, I said like go sign Zach Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
get one of those, and get Nussmeier or Simpson, and have Shadur Sanders and let them battle it out. And Shadur probably comes out of there as your week one starter. But like, who really knows? So is
Right.
um their tier, the Browns tier for me, they're at the bottom. Was we don't know what we're doing and we have no money, but we have some draft picks. So again, you're not the Raiders where you have the draft pick to get the guy,
Right.
right? If this was a 3 or 4 quarterback draft and they could get somebody at 6 or make a small move up with a team like the Titans and get somebody, they'd be much higher because it's
Right.
like you can get a guy with a legitimate first round grade.
That's fair.
But because they have picks and that's great, but you have picks in a draft that's not strong at quarterback. That doesn't give you the bump that one of these other teams that maybe have picks and cap space have.
Right.
So that was why I bumped them down. But if we're just gonna go purely with, hey, if the Browns walk in and Shadur is the starter week one, is that better than all of these other situations right now? It probably is because as you can see, I have 5 logos on here. There's 5 teams that I don't know what they're actually doing. There's Michael Penix, who I don't expect to be ready for week one. I think my prediction for them was Joe Flacco would be the week one starter because Stefanski's the coach in Atlanta.
No.
And then
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, yes, I did all this for the show last week where the Colts are like 100% sure and Daniel Jones is 100% sure he's going to be ready for training camp, which is wild, which also means for the Colts they probably won't do anything significant in terms of like getting somebody else in case he's out for a few weeks. So then it's like Riley Leonard starts for a couple weeks if need be. Because yeah, Anthony Richardson just seems out of there. Like it does not seem like they're even really giving him a chance. Like he's going to get moved on from at this point.
Yep.
So out of all of those options, Daniel Jones off the Achilles, maybe not healthy week one. Michael Penix off the knee, maybe not ready week one. And then those 4 other teams that I don't know who their starters can be. If you're telling me it's Shadur, yeah, I'd put Shadur at 26 right next to right there with JJ. I think that's fine. And then we do Daniel Jones as a
Yep.
clearly he's the very talented because we had Daniel Jones slash Anthony Richardson at 28 going into the season.
Wow.
So like going up 2 spots or going up 1 spot, I guess,
For a good season
as a
before injury,
free
I think that's,
agent
yeah, it's
coming off
fair.
of an Achilles tear, but off of a good season.
Yep.
I think that's fine. I'll show some. I'm not as anti Shadur as uh people might think, or a lot of people are for sure. So I'm cool with that. We can give Shadur 26 down here. The
There we go.
the the 32 was more of I don't know if it's going to be Shadur, and because of that, and because of the other routes that they have to be a quarterback
Right.
to get a quarterback, I just don't know.
Yep.
But if we're gonna play this out where we're saying he has a pretty good stronghold on the starting job, and that was even ultimately my prediction in the show with Ronan,
Yeah.
that he would get the job week one. I'm good with Shadur there.
Well, and my 32 is ceremonial too, because I just hold grudges against all these teams that I get annoyed with. So I wrote my first line is that this is Atlanta's punishment for their quarterback, whatever, their stupidity. Because Kirk Cousins, they just did that thing where it's a telltale sign they're going to cut him.
Yes.
They have to do it before the 13th of March, otherwise they're on the hook for
Hmm.
like almost $70 million. But they're probably going
Hmm.
to just release him.
Yeah, he's done.
Um,
Hmm.
and so, it'd be interesting to see where he goes and what he gets somewhere. But you're getting rid of a guy you brought in for an obscene amount of money that was already past his prime, and then the rookie or the third year guy you're turning to now is he'll be coming off his third ACL tear. Like that sucks. I like Penix to an extent, but for a guy that's not necessarily a mobile quarterback to begin with, he's more of a pocket passer who can sling it. I mean, he doesn't have to run. He never relied on a scramble or running ability. That's fine, but still, that's a lot of knee injuries to battle through. So I wish him all the best. I hope he turns out to be great, but their QB situation is dire.
Um, so I'm okay with that because the Falcons were in my bottom three tier with the Browns and
Yep.
the Miami Dolphins of we don't know what we're doing and we have no money, but we have draft picks.
Right.
Now the Dolphins, if they successfully trade Tua, if they cut Tyreek Hill and they restructure Waddle, they can get to like Malik Willis money. So even that, I'm already kind of breaking my tier, especially because I moved Stur out. But we don't know who their quarterback is. We
Yeah.
just like, and if it's Tua, like that's a bad spot. So I'm cool with Penix being here because yeah, the whole thing that they did, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily his fault, but it's also not like he played particularly well when he was playing. He had some moments, so maybe someone is seeing JJ McCarthy be 25 and Michael Penix be 32, and if this was a straight which quarterback is better type of
Yeah.
thing, sure. But the thing we were concerned about with Penix was the injuries, and he's coming off of another one. So like, there's no way as a Falcons fan you can
Yeah.
sit here and feel good about what's happening at quarterback for this season,
Right.
um, because you literally don't know who's going to
Yeah.
be the starter. So I'm cool with
Um,
that, especially if Penix is kind of the last remaining. We don't know what's going to happen with this position for this team.
I'm glad you mentioned Malik Willis's name because I was going to try to work him into discussion at some point.
Hmm.
I don't really want him to go to the Jets. I do kind of like Willis to the Cardinals. Isn't that where the other LaFleur went to coach? Isn't
Hmm.
it Mike
Hmm.
LaFleur now in
Hmm.
Arizona, or
Hmm.
am I
Hmm.
thinking of a
Hmm.
different?
Nope, you're
That
right.
yeah.
You're 100% right. Yeah.
That feels like a good spot, and I really like that. I really like how Malik Willis has done in his spot starts and stuff, and I think
Hmm.
he's earned a chance to be a starter. I feel like I'd be terrified if I was him to go play for the Jets because I mean
Yeah,
that's
you can't
just
do
a
that.
place where quarterbacks go down. But
He's this year's Justin Fields from last year,
right,
and not even just because they're both like mobile, but like questionable pass,
right,
like get the mid-tier contract off of being essentially the backup in some spot starts. Fields just came
right.
in a different way, and obviously draft pedigree is different. The obviously the dot connecting and what Ronan and I both did in the predictions was Malik Willis to the Dolphins because of Halfley,
Okay.
and the GM going there. But we also joked like everyone connects that dot, but then like how much have Halfley and Malik Willis ever actually talked? Like defensive coordinator and backup
Yeah,
quarterback, are they like
yeah,
pals? So it's really just like familiar faces of like first time head coach in the NFL and like, oh my gosh, a team's gonna pay me $20 million to be the starter. I didn't think I was gonna ever get here. So like we're both nervous, so it would be nice to have a familiar face. Like that's really the only way to connect that dot.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess the assistant GM had a hand in bringing him, but again, you're bringing over a failed day two draft pick as your backup quarterback. Like, is your assistant GM really like grinding the phones or the film on that one? Probably not. That's probably a LaFleur calling up the Titans because he maybe was Vrabel there when they did that trade?
Yeah.
Okay, and
Well, I
LaFleur
think
worked
so.
for Vrabel, right? Was Vrabel there when they traded Malik Willis? Had to be, had to be.
It would have had to have been him. Yeah.
And LaFleur worked for Vrabel, so if LaFleur calls him up and was like, "Vrabes, you don't like that guy? I'll
Braves.
take him. Will you send him to me for whatever they did?" Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what happened. They even trade Malik Willis. Now I'm talking out of my butt. This is how you know we're at the 90-minute mark of the podcast. Um,
What if
all right,
we
so
what if we predict Malik Willis to the Cardinals and then we put him there at 28? How do you feel
well,
about
I
that?
can't predict Malik Willis to the Cardinals because I sent. Tua to the Cardinals in last week's
Oh,
episode.
interesting.
We can't break canon, podcast canon here.
Fair enough.
Um, so okay, so because you did the I went the team way of team situation. So the Cardinals, the Steelers, the Jets, the Dolphins were four of my five teams that I predicted a change for, a
Yeah.
true week one. We're moving in a new direction.
Well,
My fifth team was the Raiders, who was just drafting Mendoza, and so that I had them up there. But this is why those four teams were just
yeah.
nameless faces. So we could either go that route, and I could tell you the tiers I put those four teams in, or if you want to use the predictions that we used,
Hmm.
we can base it off of that.
No, I don't know if I've done enough to have valid predictions
Okay.
for that. And I
Well, you
also
use
after
my predictions is what I'm saying. I would
oh,
make you use my predictions.
oh, okay.
You want to hear the predictions first, and then you can decide if you like them or not.
Sure, I'll hear yours first. I will say that my zero fun sir tier, my description is that teams
Yeah,
in
what are we
this
doing? We're burying the lead. We need to talk about your freaking column here. Kenny
I said
Pickett
the
through Aaron Rodgers.
well, I was gonna say is I'm not as far off from you as you think because I said teams in this tier need to look elsewhere for their signal caller. But I at the for the podcast, I was like, I'm just gonna put names in here. I was like, oh, Quinn Ewers started a few games for the Dolphins. Brady
And that's
Cook,
why
that's
Kenny Pickett's here. He started week 18, right? Didn't he have the week
yes,
18 game? Okay. So
yes,
that's yeah, that's why he's
yes.
the
And I swear this was not a Geno Smith dig at you. I swear I
dude.
clicked on the depth chart at some point last week and Kenny Pickett was
And it was just because he played the week 18 game. That's what it was. Um, Yeah, I was personally offended. You sent your list over, and this is why you can't be in the Dak inner circle because you can't be in the Dak inner circle and put Kenny Pickett instead of Geno Smith. That's blasphemous by you. And now even
um
I'm just now noticing Pickett's next to the Steeler logo. That's just disgusting. It's nasty work by
can
you.
I offend you a little bit more and then I'll let you
Yeah,
tell
why
me
not,
your
man?
prediction?
Why not? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I had Aaron Rodgers at 31 for your
Yeah, gross.
Steelers.
It's awful. It's terrible.
Um, but I did say if it was 2010, this would be exciting for you. Because you know what happened in 2010, Simon, was that Mike
Yeah,
McCarthy and
yeah,
Aaron
I know what happened
Rodgers
in
won the
2010. I
Super
know what
Bowl.
happened in 2010, Josh. Screw you. God, awful.
All
The worst. Never
right.
invited back on the podcast. Um, Carly and Rogers. It's so disgusting.
He was
It's so
good at not
disgusting.
throwing interceptions last year, Simon. Aaron Rodgers was.
It's great.
He
It's
did
because he
not throw
throws the ball
many.
4 yards every time he throws it, and only if the person's wide open.
All right, go
Let's talk
ahead.
about Brady Cook. You also put Brady Cook on here. Pro Football Reference doesn't have a picture of Brady Cook, so everybody gets a screenshot of his name and his bio instead, which
That's
I
fine.
thought was a more fun decision by me than trying to Google image him and have him be the one odd picture out
Oh, it was absolutely a
for
better
that
decision.
reason. Um,
Do you have Murray, Kyler Murray going to the Jets? Is that who you
no,
have?
I have Kyler going to the Steelers.
Oh, that's intriguing.
Kyler to the Steelers, Tua to the Cardinals, Geno to the Jets,
Okay.
and then Malik Willis to the Dolphins.
Okay. All right. Well, if we do that, then we got to put Geno next at
That would
20.
Geno. Oh, Geno. Um, I mean, listen, if we're actually putting Geno Smith getting a fresh start somewhere, he is above this tier. Let's be honest. He would be
That's
up
fair.
in the good QBs that need only have, or no, he would probably be in. So my JJ Daniel Jones and then one spot above Bryce Young tier was my. We have an answer for 26, but maybe not 27. So maybe that's where Geno would go in that sort
Sure.
of situation.
That makes
Um,
sense.
but my two tiers of starting with the Cardinals of teams that I don't know who their quarterback is going to be. Cardinals, Steelers, Jets is we don't know what we're doing, but we have money and draft picks. Both teams are in good financial
Yep.
places. Those are the three teams that can be in on guys like trading for a Geno or a Kyler or a Tua. Um, they have draft picks, so they can draft Simpson or Nussmeier or Beck, like insert whoever you think is like QBs 2 through 5. Like these teams could go get those guys, sort of deal. Um, and in the case of the Cardinals or Jets, like if the Raiders did want to trade Mendoza, they would be able to make at least a competitive offer. And then the Falcons and the Dolphins and the Browns were the we don't know what we're doing and we have no money, but we have draft picks. So that's why they were below 27 to 29 because they had fewer routes to a
Okay.
quarterback.
That makes sense.
We just desperately don't want to actually put anybody's name or face to any of these remaining rankings.
No, we don't.
Um, this is starting to feel disrespectful to Michael Penix. Should we put him up at this point? I know we wanted to just lock him into 32, and I said I was okay with that. But we're looking at the faces of Kenny Pickett, Quinn Ewers, and this is where the faces on the columns is just making Aaron Rodgers, Quinn Ewers, Kenny Pickett, and a faceless image of the name Brady Cook are all above Michael Penix, and that just feels wrong. Not
That
that I'm
does
gonna
feel wrong. And I,
I'm not gonna copy paste any of those over anyway, so we're just not gonna
yeah.
worry about that. So who
Well,
of the remaining one, two,
I,
three,
and I
four,
did
five
say,
teams? Okay.
I will say that I think I mentioned my Falcons at 32 was pretty ceremonial. And if we're going to look at coming back from injury, it makes sense to put him up next to Daniel Jones because they both proven like I think Daniel Jones has had a little bit of a better track record, but not by a ton. So
Mm.
I'd be okay with Penix going up to 28, honestly, and then we could just do logos for the end of the
Yeah, that
ranking.
feels right. That feels right.
That feels like it makes
Um,
sense.
if oh, don't do that. Hang on. Give that a second. That's gonna jack everything up for a minute. Do do do. Three, two, one. Um, if I told you Penix was gonna be out till like week 6, and we don't know what the Falcons are gonna do for the first 5 weeks, how does that
Yeah,
make you feel? Because it really Penix being at 30 for me was less specifically about Penix and just I really don't trust how this is going to go for 2026 based on
yeah,
him coming back from an injury and having a new head coach and the way he played in 2025 anyways wasn't spectacular.
right.
Like at least McCarthy ended the year healthy, is coming into the year healthy, has the same OC head coach play caller
Yeah,
and like was bad a lot, but like
yeah,
situationally he's okay. He's in a good spot.
yeah. I mean, if he's not back till week 6, that is a big deal because then when he comes back, it's not like he's going to be immediately right where he needs to be. I mean, I do believe there is some upside still with Michael Penix, which plays a little bit of role, and maybe there's a significant role in the fact that he's in the NFC South, and you can go 2-3 and still have a
Hmm.
shot. You can go 1-4 in the first 5 games if he comes back and is decent. Um, but yeah, if he misses the first 5 or 6 games, that is kind of the dagger because when he comes back, you can't expect him to just hit the ground running. So
He's not just going to be good right away.
right, so um,
This
but
is
if you,
tough.
but you, yeah, I know, but you could sell me on, I think he'll be fine. He's come back from these injuries before. We know that. So
He
like
has a perfect track record.
maybe I mean, honestly, maybe the mental game is a little bit stronger because he's like, yeah, I know how this process goes. I know whatever. I don't know. I'm just speculating now, but if you think there's upside for him still, if he can stay healthy, then I think he can move up for sure, even
Let's
if he
try to
misses
sp-
games.
let's try to split the difference a little bit and let's play this game right off the top of your head. If I tell you the Dolphins have Malik Willis and the Falcons have Joe Flacco then Michael Penix, who do you feel is in a better spot for 2026?
I gotta go with the Falcons.
Okay. If
Yeah.
I told you the Jets made a day 2 draft pick and they either end up with well, and I guess for all these teams, this is the same thing. So the Tua, Kyler, Geno triumvirate
Hmm.
versus Penix. How do you feel about those 4 guys? Tua, I mean, you had Kyler above, but like if I'm
Yeah.
taking Kyler off the Cardinals, let's say, well, I mean, I
Yeah.
have the Cardinals here. So Kyler you would have above Penix. What about
Yeah.
Tua?
Oh
And
boy.
then Geno? Oh, Tua wasn't just yep. Okay. Tua versus Penix. Week 5 Penix. So like Flacco plus Penix versus Tua.
Yeah. I mean, Flacco's crazy. He can still sling it. So I think that helps that situation quite a bit. Whereas we've
Yeah.
never seen Tua outside of Mike McDaniel's situation. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust him elsewhere. And he has his own injury history that he needs to be thinking about too. I would go Penix above Tua, I think. But I
Yeah.
couldn't put him above a Geno or Kyler led team, I don't think.
And
Even with
then
Joe Flacco
so
starting.
so here's then what I'm thinking because and I know you would put Aaron Rodgers above Penix because you did. And then if I think the Steelers don't do that and they end up with going with a Kyler, I don't think they do Tua. but I guess it's not that different in theory to Kyler, but I just can't imagine. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna make a call and be done with this because we're at hour 40 and we've been on these five guys for a very long time. We are gonna go Arizona next at
Okay.
28 because they have draft picks, they've got money. If they end up just sticking with Kyler, that's not awful. We just don't expect it at this point.
Right. We don't expect
Um,
it, but there is something to be said for new coach comes in, maybe there's enough like, hey, let's give it a shot. Like maybe
yeah.
there's enough of that.
Steelers. I think it's going to be Kyler again, which we just said we like better than the Falcon situation. You
Yep.
think it's going to be Rodgers, which you have above Penix. So let's go Steelers because they have cap space.
Yep.
Um, they have mid-round picks to get one of those guys if they really wanted to. So go there next, and then we'll go Penix.
Okay.
So Penix is going to get 30, which still puts him in the bottom three there.
Yep.
Um, and then Dolphins and Jets. I would advocate for Dolphins at 32 because they're gonna have a time moving on from Tua. Now, in my prediction with Ronan, it was essentially like I think someone like the Cardinals would do a flyer for him for like they do the classic like swap a sixth for a seventh sort of deal, and we'll take Tua's contract.
Yep.
But like someone still has to want to do that.
Right.
And I think trading Kyler would be easier if the Cardinals want to do that. The Jets can move on from Fields, no problem, and then just go
Yep.
do whatever they want that's available to them. The Dolphins have to try to trade Tua, and then they're looking at still at best going with a mid-tier guy like a Malik Willis or lower, or drafting somebody. But again, that's only a Ty Simpson. That's only a QB2 or QB3 situation at best in the draft.
Yep.
So they have fewer avenues that are even more unknown than any of these other teams, I think.
Yeah. And I think there's a place here for the tiebreaker of first time head coach, not only first time head coach in Miami, but a defensive minded head coach. Like it'd be a little bit different if you had a guy who's known for being a QB whisperer or a young offensive mind going to Miami who's got creativity that's going to happen. Like, I'm not saying Halfley can't do it. I'm just saying that, like,
Yeah.
it's less exciting when a defensive guy takes over a quarterback situation that's in flux. So,
All right, so those are bottom eight. We finally settled on it. McCarthy, Shadur Sanders, Daniel Jones, the Arizona Cardinals, whatever they do, the Steelers, whatever they do, Penix slash whatever happens before Penix at 30, and then the Jets and the Dolphins
and
are at the bottom.
for whoever's playing Simon and Friends bingo out there, someone just won a bingo on the most rare occasion where we have a Quinn Ewers and Brady Cook mention on the power rankings. We will never see them again.
Nope, they will not be back. They will not be back. Neither will Kenny Pickett. I'll not allow it next time, so don't even try to sneak it past me. Um, Hope everybody enjoyed. We spent a long time on that group, man. That is wild. Let's
It's a weird group. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
there's a whole bunch of stuff
How do
going
you,
on.
it's
Let
hard to sift through that.
let's get one last look at some actual good quarterbacks. Man, I feel so much better about these top eight now after looking at the dredges down there. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Drake May, Caleb Williams are our top eight. Again, this is our 4.0. This is a lot based on vibes as we sit here at the end of the season. We are going to update this. We are going to take the offseason. We're going to assess drafts, the final, coaching hires that come through the pike. We're going to do the free agency. We're going to factor all those things in. We'll have off-season power rankings, kind of ranking how teams are doing at that stuff. And then with that fresh context, maybe a little bit of film watching, depending on what might change or may not change for some of these guys. Um, we'll have a 5.0 preseason of officially like this is the odd numbers, the preseason ones are like this is what we think is actually going to happen this season. This one is more about where these teams are sitting right now as they embark on the offseason. So we'll update this in about 6 months from now in August. So Josh, anything else for you before we get out of here?
No, it was fun. I think it's the interesting comment of the night, I think will be that, at the beginning you said it was nice to look at the top eight again. We had this like,
Hmm.
did it feel like the quarterbacks kind of settled for us this time and it wasn't weird? And it totally did from a percentage standpoint. Like everything settled nicely until we got to the end and it was all over the place.
You just
But
don't you do
that's why it's fun.
that's why it's fun. Said no fans of teams who are in that bottom eight
That's
as
true.
we
That's
are.
true.
Um, I told people for years, man, you don't want to be out here. You don't want to be out here without a franchise quarterback. I had one franchise quarterback essentially my entire life watching the Steelers. It was fantastic. I never had to worry, even in the down years.
Yeah.
It was so much better than being down here where the Steelers are at now. And
Good
here we
stuff.
are. And now we're down there with coaching staff as well. Anyways, I'm gonna depress myself. Um, Thank you all so much for watching. If you are on YouTube, we appreciate it. If you are listening at home, audio A1 Day One, we appreciate it. Quick shout out to Box Score. So much draft coverage is coming your guys' way. Ben and his team at Pro Football Enterprise are wrapping up some player profiles. They're going to have more out between now and the draft, but they're continuing to put those out. Me and Ben on this show are going to have stuff that's going on there. I'll have some additional stuff going on there. We have big boards, we have mock drafts, we have player profiles, general draft discussions are going on the Box Score YouTube channel. So make sure you check all that out. Um, and it's going to continue to get flooded. Ben and I were talking about it just the other night, and we're going to end up at like 3 shows a week. Um,
Nice.
Come like March and April for those 2 months basically between player profiles and mocks and big boards and stuff like that. So make sure you're checking that out and all the pods and box score network. So everybody, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you, Josh, for being here once again. We will talk to y'all soon. Have fun and be safe out there.